Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the secret to increasing your metabolism. And it's probably not what you think, nor what you've ever tried. So if you're ready to understand how to have an easier time with consuming the foods you love and being healthier overall, listen up and lean in as we elevate your mind. The secret.
I know. The secret. We got a lot of secrets here.
Lots of them. I mean, because we kind of just do things differently than other people.
Yes,
So,
yes.
You want to hear a secret about Instagram?
Yeah, I do.
Don't unfollow a whole batch of people at the same time because they think that you're a bot.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I got kicked out. I had to change my password. I had to stop doing things for 48 hours. And I just was like, just to be safe, I'm just going to take the whole weekend off.
Yeah.
That's why no one knows where I was. Everyone's like, where are you? Are your dogs okay? Why is your dogs at your mom's? I'm like, I was out of town.
Yep. I know.
I started my new, you got a new Instagram follow from CJ Hathaway.
Did I?
Mm-hmm. That's me.
So you did do a personal one?
Mm-hmm. It was just CJ Hathaway. So yeah, so that was Instagram. What else? What else is happening in my life? I don't have any travel planned for the rest of the year.
Wow, really?
Yeah, we have options, but because of homegirl,
yeah.
For those who can't see, I'm pointing my very old dog. We're like, ooh, because my dad. Okay, so here's a funny story. So my mom's like, yeah, if Brookie wasn't doing well, your dad doesn't want her to come over. And I go, Dad, if that was my toddler who was having a hard time, would you not have my toddler come over to your house? He goes, yep, want to do it. He literally was like, yep, want to do it. And I was like, Dad, you would. I go, if my toddler was having potty issues, would you be like, nope, don't want to see your ass? Doubtful. Just because it's a dog and it can't talk. Like, well, you, sir, can't see. And we don't just kick you out on the curb. So, yeah. So, it's, I want to have a quinceañera for her next month.
Oh my God.
I'm going to have a quinceañera for my dog because if she doesn't make it, I'm still going to have one for her.
Okay.
And I want to invite everyone's dogs and everyone's going to dress up their dogs. And then it'll just be a big party for my dog. Okay. I haven't had a party for her in a long time. And the last one was awesome. Everyone brought their dogs. I had all pigs in a blanket and hot dogs, like a hot dog bar. And then we had all these drinks like Scooby snacks and salty dogs and all of that.
Oh my God.
Awesome. You know me.
Yep.
I text Mark. I was like, I know it's getting late there. I'm going to record one more pod and then I'll call you. He's like, oh yeah, I'm at a CFO dinner for another hour. I'm like, oh, my bad. Okay. Sorry. You're probably getting a really good meal or I've got to make whatever the fuck I'm going to make tonight.
Yeah.
I have to make my food. I'm so spoiled by my husband. I really am.
Yeah. I realized how much I know how much Michael loves me, but I realized how much Michael loves me this weekend when I made him do pictures. Because I was like,
I know, right?
God damn, these suck. Like, not that the pictures don't suck. It's doing pictures I'm not into.
Like, smell his nose.
Yeah. And kiss him. Lots of kisses. Okay, do this. Do that. Pose this. I'm like, ugh.
Did he put his hands over your boobs? Like Janet Jackson?
You know what? He did. What is it? Motorboat me at one point. And it's actually on film. So there's the secret. But also, I got a sneak peek of my nudie ones in the shower. So I'm like, okay.
I did like your new profile picture.
Thanks. I know. I'm going to do like a little post of all the new ones just because I like them. So I'm like, okay.
Well, I was thinking like January-ish, we do another photo shoot for the team. And I'm going to fly out everyone.
January? Okay.
Yeah. Do you feel good about that?
No, but it'll be fine.
Okay. Well, we won't do it in January.
Well, I'm just saying like postpartum wise, body wise.
Well, let's talk about that on a podcast about Mindset Mirror Connection.
Okay. Maybe
it's a good thing. And then we'll have another one in July. And then you'll be fit by Amanda. You see.
Yeah.
You never know.
I know.
I don't be perfectly fine. And
I made my workout plan for postpartum, like my calendar of it. And so we'll see if I actually do it or what.
I'm just chilling right now. I already told you guys I do 3 days a week with the optional core power, which I've not gone to. I haven't even done 3 days a week in like 3 weeks because I got sick. And then, yeah, I walk every day. Nothing's changing. I mean, I've been doing more pelvic floor rehab. So I do that on my days off.
Yeah, I do that at fucking shit ton. Yeah, so I like made one that way I don't lose my fucking mind and I can cross off days. Because it's literally for the first 2 weeks, I'm just like doing contractions and marching.
Yeah.
And then 3 weeks is like mobility, 4 weeks mobility. And then week 5 and 6, I did like body weight stuff, just 2 sets of 10. And so we'll see. We'll see how
cool.
I might not stick with it, but I wanted to be able to have something instead of being like, ooh, should I do this? And it's like, no. So
yeah. There you go. Planning ahead. We love that.
Trying.
Hi, puppy. Why don't you go lay down? Do you need your medicines? She's so damn cute. You guys, I need to put a picture of her under, like, on YouTube of just Brooklyn. I have another dog too, by the way, guys. Harlem. She's a very good girl. She's sleeping right now. She doesn't give a shit. It's interesting because her hair is turning black.
Oh, instead of
first her hair was falling out. Now it's turning black.
Oh. Why would a dog?
I need to Google if that's a normal thing for a dog. If you guys are a veterinarian, please let me know. I went to the vet and he's like, oh, she just had an allergy. Like, that's why her hair was falling out. And I'm like, okay. Why is her hair turning black?
Genetics.
Sometimes I think the vets care. And sometimes I'm like, do you even remember her? Because last time you were concerned about her blood work and her hair falling out. Now you're not concerned.
Now you don't care.
Sheesh. Anyway, yeah, nothing planned. Do you guys have any vacations planned for the
No, because I can't travel anymore.
Oh, fuck.
I know.
What about a baby moon?
I mean, we went to Huntington, but that was more for Michael's birthday.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I can't travel. I got, I think I start going, I think I'm at every 2 weeks now for the doctor, and then it'll be every week. I go this Wednesday, and we're going to talk about my birth plan.
Oh, yeah, because he was not happy with you last time.
He was not happy, and I was like, oh, my God, sorry.
Oh,
no, I start going every week. Oh, my gosh, in October. That sucks.
Fun.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's about it, though, because I can't go anywhere, and I don't know if Michael's going to go anywhere.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem with going out of town is I don't even have any reality TV shit to talk about.
I know.
How sad about that. So that's it. Let's just get into it. How about that? So you guys are probably wondering the secret to increasing your metabolism. Now, let's talk about what people probably think that is.
Eating less,
moving more, not having carbs, taking a supplement. What else?
Fasting to boost.
Oh, keto. Yeah. Oh yeah, fasting to boost your metabolism. What was I looking at? It was like, this is how you boost. It was like such garbage. It was literally like deep fake bullshit of like, this is how this pill is. No, it's not.
No,
it's not going to do that. Idiot. But just so you guys understand, hold on, let me cut that. We should talk about what is metabolism again.
Okay. So
just so you guys understand, is metabolism refers to the complex set of chemical reactions that occur in the body to maintain your life, right? It involves the process of converting food that you eat into energy and building blocks for growth, repair, and overall functioning. And there's catabolic and anabolic. So catabolic is the process of breaking down molecules such as fat, carbohydrates, proteins into smaller bits of energy. This energy is used for physical activity, maintaining body temperature, and power your cellular process. Anabolic is the opposite. It's where your body uses energy to build up tissue, synthesize new cells, and store energy for future use. This includes muscle building, bone growth, and tissue repair. Now, the interesting thing about catabolic versus anabolic is if we're in a catabolic state, we're breaking down. So we're actually slowing down our resting metabolism because breaking down, we don't need as much energy. And when we're anabolic, we are building our metabolism. So with that said, the one secret to building your metabolism meaning you can eat more food and still look amazing.
Whoa.
Is called the bulk. Calorie surplus, baby.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
I feel like we need a lot of zingers on this episode because it's
zing,
like,
zing.
Ooh, yeah, people are going to listen and be like, yeah, no, not doing that. Yep, no, not doing that.
So yes, the secret to building your metabolism is actually eating more food. However, there is a way to do this the right way and the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to talk about that. But let's talk about the fears of going into a bulk. Well, let's talk about your experience with a bulk, like what it is, because you have done one recently.
Oh, that's how I feel about it, to be honest. Oh, but then I'm like, honestly, it was a really good experience. So for me in the bulk, it was really challenging. So first I had to find maintenance, and what maintenance is basically where you can live without losing weight or gaining weight. And this is where you want to be about. Yeah. And it's a range. So for example, my maintenance is probably anywhere from 22 to 2,400.
And what is the weight range you usually live in that maintenance?
Usually
like,
about one.
You don't have to say the numbers, but like, is it like 3 to 5 pounds?
No, yeah, it's about 3 to 5, I would say. And it's a good fluctuation. It's a good 2,400 is definitely my upper echelon. 22 is pretty comfortable. 23 is fine. But that also took me time to find too. So if, for example, we don't want to just like go into this bulk that we're talking about without knowing the maintenance, because you might be going into not a bulk, and or you might be going into like way too much of a bulk too.
Correct. And you need to reverse into that maintenance, which we have an episode on. Look up reverse diet.
Yes. So for the bulk, you're essentially adding your maintenance. So 22 to 2,400 calories for me. I'm adding about 250 to 500 calories, depending on, this is honestly depending on what I'm comfortable with and honestly what I can sustain quantity wise. So not quality. So how much food volume, because at some point when you're going into this surplus, so it's also known as a surplus, a bulk, you'll hear dirty bulk, a clean bulk, you'll hear a mass gain, weight gain phase, a lean muscle gain phase. So those are all of the same.
Building phase.
Building phase is another one. So those are all what's it called? Synonyms for bulk. Yeah. So
that in my grammar app, because I was like, what is a noun again?
That's what I was like, what are like, I almost said like analogy, and I'm like, no, not that one. So when you're doing this, like for me, I gradually added calories. You can just say, okay, so say your maintenance 2,000 calories is usually what you use as an example, because it's just an easy number and it's nice and round. So say your maintenance is 2,000 calories. You can say, I'm just going to go to 2,500, or you can say, I'm going to start at 22 and see how I feel for a couple of weeks, assess my weight gain and some other measurements with this, and then gradually increase. Because at some point it's challenging to eat that much because of your body just saying like, hey, I'm really full. And we want to be at that place, but in a respectable manner. You don't want to be like just overstuffing yourself because you're technically in this bulk phase.
Right.
So
yeah,
that is how I did that.
Yeah. Well, and a bulk is really important. And what people don't realize is that the law of thermodynamics, meaning, how our body uses energy, that, how it metabolizes energy is pretty clear, where, in a fat loss phase, it is more catabolic. It is breaking down, right, that energy.
Right.
In maintenance, we're sustaining that. What's coming in and what's going out is relatively the same. And then in a calorie surplus, we are anabolic. We're building. Now, also what we need to realize is that fat tissue and muscle tissue are two different tissues, as we've explained before. But people get those very confused. I'm building fat and I'm building muscle and losing fat at the same time. Unfortunately, as I just said, calorie deficit, it can be catabolic, where we're breaking down our energy stores. So I'm not building shit. I'm actually breaking it down. Now, if you have the right coaching and you're hitting your protein targets, we're getting adequate sleep, we're managing stress, we're strength training, we're going to minimize the amount of lean body mass muscle that we have, so that only fat is what's being broken down. Now, still in any sort of calorie deficit, we're going to see a little bit of that muscle decrease. However, in a surplus, it's anabolic. So it's building. And if we do it the right way, as we're going to talk about today, We are going to build lean body mass. Yes. And just like in the calorie deficit, a little bit of that muscle goes down. In the calorie surplus, a little bit of the fat goes up. Right. However, that's okay. So, when we're talking about how to increase your metabolism, we want to increase lean body mass. And for the majority of humans, that can only be done in a calorie surplus or a bulk.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk about a little bit of the mindset around why women are afraid of bulking. Okay. So one of the things that I notice with clients who go through our program, hit their weight loss, whatever that looks like, body composition, this is the first time they reverse diet, and this is the first time they lived in maintenance, because no program has ever taught them that before. And for some clients, we have to actually do this a couple of times because we see some of their blind spots in the reverse. We see some of their blind spots at maintenance. However, one of the biggest blind spots is the mindset of stepping on a scale and it not changing for the first time. Being someone who is actually not losing weight is probably the biggest barrier to this. Because our whole life we stepped on the scale and hoped it was going down. But there's actual processes in the process of not gaining the weight back, in the process of increasing your metabolism, has nothing to do with weight loss or the scale going down. So for me, that's one of the biggest things is that women, number one, they're afraid that they're going to gain all this weight back because that's what they did before without this protocol. And stepping on a scale that they've, hopefully we've done the work in our program that the relationship with the scale means nothing to them, but still, it's still a mindfuck of oh wait, the scale's not supposed to be going down. So let's go into why you would go into a bulk. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So one of the reasons we want to go into a bulk is just what I said. We're going to increase lean muscle mass. There is study after study after study that shows the benefit of having a higher lean body mass, meaning more muscle. And what comes with that is more strength.
Right.
For not just aesthetics, for longevity, to reduce all-cause mortality, to help with mental health, and so on. So the higher lean body mass that we have, the higher resting metabolism we have. Okay. So I compare this to someone in a larger body. They just naturally have to eat more to sustain their body and move in space. You got to think about the amount of weight and energy that is required to move that body in space. Now, the same is true with lean body mass because it's so dense and it's not heavier. A pound of muscle and a pound of fat weigh the same, but it's dense and it requires more energy to sustain. So just like a bigger body requires more energy to sustain, a lean muscular body requires more energy to sustain. So what does that mean? I need to have more energy in, right? In an effort to sustain it. So I can increase my resting metabolism by having more muscle mass. And then of course, in an effort to do that, I'm also getting stronger. So I'm getting stronger. I am maybe, building muscle around my, I should say this. I not only am getting stronger, I can put the suitcase up in the overhead bin, I can pick up the groceries, but also I'm also making my bones stronger too, which as we get older is important.
And here's something to circle back to what you were talking about earlier, and then going into why do we want to do this is improving strength in the lean muscle mass. Of going back to the scale part of that, a scale is not going to tell you that you're increasing lean muscle mass necessarily. A generic one, right? Not the ones that have the impedance and all that shit, but even then those are inaccurate. So that's something I do want to tie into what you're talking about with the gaining lean muscle mass and improved strength. If scale is going up, you can't say I'm gaining fat mass because you don't know. There isn't, unless you're doing a little biopsy, Right. So that's something that I want to emphasize here for me and my bulking journey, as they say, is I was weighing myself. And then at some point it was okay, this is not creating a good relationship anymore. And so I stopped.
Right.
But and because I was telling myself their relationship was flawed, even though it was exactly what I was doing at the time. So that's something to consider as well of I'm doing this to gain lean mass. I'm doing this to improve my strength. And then we'll talk about some other reasons why to do it and improve your metabolism so you can eat more. But what factors are stopping me from believing those goals can happen.
Right. Definitely going to touch on that. The other thing though, too, is like this whole building lean body mass is that athletic look.
Yeah.
So if we would talk about aesthetics, like you want rounder glutes, that is a muscle.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get that from eating less and doing kickbacks. You do that from eating more, because that's anabolic. So we're building through that energy that we're getting in from food, and strength training in different phases. Strength and hypertrophy are the two that's going to help you build. Right. So even if you're just like, I don't give a shit about longevity, I don't give a shit, I just want to look hot as shit, this is how we do it. This is how we do it.
Well, and then you're conflicting yourselves when you say like, I want to still lose weight, but keep my glutes. And it's like, to do both is maybe in the beginning you can, but and as you get more and more advanced or more into the fitness sphere and like the longevity of your nutrition and whatnot, it's going to be challenging to do that. So to cycle through this, again, improve your body composition because you're gaining more muscle long-term. So it doesn't mean we stay in the bulk forever, but when we go into a cut or a weight loss phase or back to maintenance, you're going to see that muscle that you've been developing in the anabolic phase. Your athletic performance is going to improve. So again, your strength improves, but maybe your dynamics with certain movements, or maybe like if you're really like volleyball or softball or something like that, and you play like a recreational sport, that can be improved as well. Supporting by having more muscles, we talked about hormone health, very beneficial, right?
Let's touch on that because I think that's important for people to understand that, naturally as we get older, we lose, estrogen is actually anabolic, and we have estrogen receptors all over our body. And as we age, we lose a lot of, 3 to 5% of our lean body mass, starting at around age 35, and like 1% of our power, and like so much percent of our strength. And so, it's kind of this chicken or the egg dilemma, is like, is it the loss of muscle that then makes our hormonal balance off, or vice versa? Right. You'll hear people talk. I believe it's more, go ahead.
I should have sent you this episode. Stronger by Science had this, like a Q&A episode. It was really interesting because they talked about, if hormonal birth control has an impact on weight loss phases. And then they talked about if perimenopause and menopause has an impact on weight loss phases. And they were saying, basically, the long story short of it is no, because if you are taking care of like our knobs that we talk about, the nutrition aspect, the sleep aspect, recovery aspect, the exercise component, it's not like you should not be essentially gaining or losing weight. It does not impact weight loss. What really impacts weight loss is the changes that happen during the time perimenopause and menopause is happening. So for example, when women enter that stage, typically they're going into retirement. So they're becoming more sedentary, or their lifestyle is changing significantly, and they're not taking that to account. So I was or
they don't even have to go into retirement. They've got kids in different sports, so they're in the car.
Or they got the kids and the parents that they're taking care, like that kind of that middle life thing that starts happening. And I was like, oh, that's good too.
Or they have a 15-year-old dog who won't stop pacing.
Yes. So
I don't know what you want. I love you. She's just staring at me with puppy dog eyes.
Yeah.
But yes, like even, while estrogen is the main hormone we need to look at, but like testosterone, right? We can see decreases in testosterone, and building lean body mass will help in increasing that as well. And it's just a better overall environment,
right?
If we're going to choose one or the other, right? And it's when we're talking about this bulk, it's a small change that you can make. You're actually eating more food that ultimately is going to help even some of the symptoms of going into peri and post menopause. So just wanted to touch on that. The other thing too is like we are adding more of an understanding about our body, right? Like what does it feel like eating more food? How does that affect my energy, my libido, my sleep, my ability to manage stress? So we're talking about metabolism, but again, if it helps hormonally, right? And it also helps with depression and anxiety and helping with that. I mean, just strength training, the strength training aspect, plus also eating more food because we're not in a stress state. then we're going to get cues from our body that we may never have experienced before.
Right.
And you start to learn your body in a totally different way. And for some of my clients that do this, they're like, I don't want to go into a cut. Like, that sucks. Like, I love living here, there in maintenance, you know?
Well, and it's nice because, so I feel like when we'll take beginner clients and advanced clients, for example. So beginner clients, we're most of the time reversing out and teaching them about maintenance and focusing on the bigger levels because they've always been, whether they are actually in a cut, but they were always mentally in a cut. So living at maintenance and showing, okay, this is what it's like to be able to eat this much and not have to worry about body composition changes. For me, I very rarely take a beginner client into a surplus. And if I do, it's more secretly, just to help for that eventual weight loss phase, right? Now, for advanced clients, as you're talking about, it's very important that you go through this just to better understand your body, but also to create a new sense of challenge for yourself, but also to continually to push towards your goals. Because goals are probably one, get stronger, feel better, but also have this body composition that I want to maintain. Now, if you like living at like that, I'm not losing weight, I'm not gaining weight, I'm in this place forever, totally fine. But for the people who are more, I'll say like the fitness aficionados or whatever it's called. Aficionados. Thank you. Is that like Italian?
Word. I bet.
So for those types of people, there is a huge benefit of going through this. And I would say even for coaches that are listening, there's even a greater benefit of going through this because I could coach someone through it and I could understand where they were coming from with their fears of the scale or gaining weight or changing body compositions or even honestly just looking maybe softer or something like that. But until I went through it, it was like, oh yeah, okay, that is maybe a larger mind fuck than I was giving it, holding weight for it for another person, but also being able to recognize like why I'm doing this, what are the not rules, but what are the reasonings? As far as like, I wanted to be able to increase my calories, long term, and I wanted to build some muscle over time. And then I wanted to be able to say, okay, so now when I go into a cut, my cut's around 1900 and not like 1700, which 200 calories can make a big difference.
Right. Well, it's sustainable results, right? Yeah. So like building that muscle through the bulk helps you maintain your physique, right? Because it takes a lot to create the physique. It takes a lot of patience and time and a process. But once you get there, you can maintain it with a lot less effort. You guys all know that friend. I'm one of them that goes on vacation and doesn't see a big spike in weight. I mean, I just got off of vacation. My weight's exactly the same before I left. I did not track my food. I did not actually even bring protein bars or protein powder. I did look at the menus ahead of time and decide what I was going to eat, but really I just ate intuitively, and walked. Yeah. And so also, and as Amanda is saying, sustainable results, even if we do need to go into or want to go into a fat loss phase, now I've bulked to 2,500. I can literally lose weight at 2,000 calories, which prior to the bulk, you may have thought, oh, how could I even eat 2,000 calories? And now you're eating 2,500, which makes it awesome. There's also such a huge psychological benefit to it, right? It's very empowering to shift your focus from getting smaller and losing weight to building strength and muscle and having a better relationship with food and your body. This shift in your food intake and exercise, I mean, if you think about the rest of your life, this is where we want to be.
Right.
It's going to you're just going to have you're literally rewriting history in your life by doing this and doing it right.
Yeah. And even think about like your eulogy or whatever. They're not going to be like, oh, she was so skinny. They can probably say like, oh, wow, she was so strong. Right.
Yes.
Whether that's physically or emotionally, but again, turning the mirror back away from the body image because so much of our lives have been focused on the image of the body. And really saying like, wow, I feel so strong, because sometimes going back to me, for example, okay, so I had the body image, great. This is what I look like. And then as I was going into the bulk, of course, I was going to get softer in my body because of the carbohydrate intake and just going into a bulk. That's kind of what happens sometimes.
It was by that real quick. I just think, again, if listeners haven't listened to us before, like carbs don't make you that way. You just have a little bit more water in
Yes.
your
Thank you. Yeah. So it wasn't necessarily that I was gaining fat mass and so I was looking softer. It's like I'm just having more carbs than I normally would. So holding on to more water. So it was empowering where I'm looking in the mirror going, oh gosh, I look a little bit softer, like my muscles aren't as defined. But then when I would go lift, it was like, holy shit, I don't even care about that because like I just squatted XYZ and that was awesome. Or like I was doing dips with a 25-pound plate. Like that's to me, and to be able to track that progress, and we'll get there too, of like things you should do when you are in a bulk, is being able to track that strength and see it over time and then see my muscle definition change when I would video myself. Was like, I don't care about how like lean I am because it's pretty badass that I can do body weight dips with a 25-pound plate.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely. So let's talk about like who should do a bulk, right? I think that's important. Now, if you're someone who's like, I want an ass, you should do a bulk. You're not going to build an ass in a calorie deficit. You're not going to build anything eating less. And for some of you, you're like, wait, the first time I started strength training, I was in a calorie deficit and I saw some gains. Those are called newbie gains. Congratulations. Congrats. You'll never see them again. Yeah. No, you could see them again if you take a long time off and come back to it. But
if you did something sustainable, you did not take a long time off to come back to it.
Yeah. So if you usually women want, a nice butt, they want nice shoulders and maybe even like get rid of like the underneath here. So your tricep, strong core, of course. For a lot of our clients, they're like, I want badass quads. I want to basically be able to like rip someone's head off with my legs. So again, that is aesthetic, but for some people having strong quads is because maybe they had rehabbed a knee and they lost a lot of weight in one of their quads. And so they need to rebuild back, right? And so it's not always aesthetic in regards to gaining muscle.
Well, and going into, it's not always aesthetic. Sometimes it's to increase performance and strength. So for example, if like maybe you like MMA, I don't know, I'm just thinking of that, like, and you need to change your weight classes. Like this is a good reason to do that, to improve your strength and performance there. Maybe if I'm trying to think of like another sport that would, if you're into athletics though, like this is a good way to pull that lever of getting stronger, but then having more of an ability of like, what can my body do for performance as opposed to how does my body look while it's performing too?
Well, if you think of the whole Michael Phelps thing where he was eating like 8,000 calories a day and lean as fuck. Like if that's not, and yes, it's a man, but that's not truth right there. Like, I don't know what to tell you. As we already mentioned, if you're someone who just wants this process to be easier, if I want to cut from a higher rate, I have to go through this in an effort to do that. You can't my client asked me today, when will I start eating at 22 to 2,500 calories? I'm like, well, when we come out of this deficit, we'll reverse to maintenance, make sure that everything that you're doing in regards to reverse, that we handle your blind spots. Then we can go into a bulk for like 3 months. And I sent her a podcast. I'm like, listen to this podcast. I want you to understand. This is actually one of the reasons why I wanted to do this today. Because for her, she'd love to be able to eat 2,500, maintain her physique, not see any differences. Now for her, she's got some blind spots in regards to how she eats and drinks. But eventually, as we continue to work together, she will get to this place. And for her, she has a lot of meals out because of her job. Yeah. And so it will help her to maintain with still even having that, what would normally be a barrier if we don't have this in place. Right. What else?
I would say being too lean. Right. And so we see this with some clients. You've lost your you've lost your cycle. And or maybe fertility is becoming an issue because you're lean body mass, which again, if you like that look and you can maintain that look and there's no blind spots, pitfalls, breakdowns, you feel comfortable with that look, you're not doing it for anybody else but you, then wonderful, I'm not speaking to you. What I'm talking to is the person who's perpetually in that lean state, trying to keep the body there, but also trying to maybe gain the ass, or maybe trying to have a pregnancy, or maybe trying to like deal with symptoms that indicate you're just too lean. Right. And so this is where we would reverse, but also I would like to take this client into a bit of a bulk so we can say, let's really just, again, take the focus away from these other things, but also we want to provide the body with enough nutrients because, again, hormones come from nutrients, right? So let's just give them a little bit more and kind of support that cycle as well.
Mm-hmm. I work with a client who is recovering from anorexia. Mm-hmm. She and I are working in a way that best suits her needs. And through her food journal, we've been able to make small tweaks to her meals just to bring her. And she did some photos. Now, disclaimer, I don't do progress photos with every client who has in recovery. But she and I had a very long conversation about it. And when we did it, I was like, oh, fuck, look at you. Like her ass is like, she's starting to get a little booty.
Yeah.
And even because her core was always her like troublesome spot that she would focus on. And it's very much like her inflammation has gone down. She's much stronger. Her arms look great. And this is in 3 months of being in a slight surplus, And so for her, I also think of it too from like, if you look, I was traveling and I look at people like on the airplane and
isn't it interesting?
Think about being thin in old age is not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. That means your bones are thin.
Yep.
Okay.
Brittle.
We don't want. Very brittle. It's not good. Like my grandma was very thin. You could be very thin by going through cancer treatment. Like being thin is not a good thing. So it like definitely flips that mindset of like skinny to like, again, strong.
It's interesting because we all want to be skinny until we see like the older generations and we're like, oh, not that skinny though. And it's like, well, how do you think they've been that skinny? Like literally not strength training, doing cardio and eating less.
Yep, absolutely. Also, if you're just someone who's like, okay, I've hit this plateau.
Yeah.
I kind of over it, kind of over tracking.
Right.
Well, you do have to track somewhat in this if you want to do it the right way. I want to try something else and still see results. That's the thing. You can literally gain weight on the scale doing this the right way and actually be smaller.
Yep.
How? Again,
we'll get there.
You're not watching on YouTube. Here's what I'm doing. I'm holding up my iPhone in my left hand and my AirPods case in my right hand. My AirPods case is a pound of muscle. My iPhone case is a pound of fat. Now, this is not exact, but you get what I'm saying. This little chunk of pound, also 1 pound, both of them.
Yeah, the pound of muscle. So she's raising the iPhone case, or no, the AirPod case, excuse me.
It's in smaller places. So you have a pound of muscle in this little, very dense little ball that looks smaller than this big phone that I have. And I have a Max phone too. So,
you do have a big phone.
But yeah, just, and lastly, just, again, you want to get out of this rhetoric of be small, be small, be small. And we want to break into, I don't want to fucking do that anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. Like there is nothing in me that wants to do that ever again.
Right.
It's great. Good. However, with this new sense of self, we are going to run into challenges, right? Yes. You may see the scale go up, right? But more than likely, you're going to see your body change in really cool ways. There might be a little fat on your body, and that's okay. Because guess what you're really good at? Losing body fat.
Right. Because you've already done it.
We've already done that. Right.
It's important. I want to, because as soon as I think the audience hears that you might gain a little fat on your body, they're going to be like, okay, well, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. You have to consider there's a trade-off for every nutrition choice that you're making or every goal that you have. And what I mean by that is, so for example, you want to go into a weight loss phase. A trade-off might be that you're losing some muscle because, again, as Christina talked about, it's a catabolic state. So if you're okay with that trade-off and eating less and significantly planning more and staying within a strict caloric area, then that's your trade-off. And those things don't make it any easier than a bulk, right? Maintenance, your trade-off. So not gaining weight, not losing weight, your trade-off might be fear of the unknown or kind of hitting that plateau. And so then your bulk trade-off might be that you do gain some fat mass. But again, circling back to what is my long-term goal? Why am I doing this? If the goal, like for your client, you said, for example, wants to be able to eat 2,400 calories, well, that's the trade-off for a bit, right? And it doesn't mean that fat mass is going to stay there forever. And I am going to promise you, it is not as much as you think it is either.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just like when you look back at your college pictures and you're like, God, I look so good there. And it's like, yeah, it also wasn't that great of a nutrition time. Like you're seeing it through a different lens. And I promise you, it's not like, boom, I'm fat. It's more so of like, okay, I can just tell there's some changes, but why am I doing this? How am I getting support? What changes am I seeing in my strength? Do I enjoy that? Great.
Yeah. Well, and here is a huge aha for you guys. If you don't build the muscle, more than likely, especially as you go through perimenopause and the menopause transition, you're actually going to increase visceral fat. Why? Because you're more insulin sensitive. Your hormones are off balance, right? You are not burning as much in the workout themselves, right? So you're like post-exercise, exercise oxygen consumption is not as high, which is what we want, and you're fucking inflamed.
Yes.
So you're still gonna build fat naturally because you gain about 5 to 10% of visceral fat just going through this process. However, we can minimize that, and the fat that you gain might be subcutaneous, meaning under the skin, right? And so that type of fat is the type of fat that we can, like you said, you can lose it. Like you can lose that easier, quote unquote.
Let me put that this way. Because you've probably already gone through a weight loss phase with hopefully us as coaching or a coach that reflects our values and standards, you realize a weight loss phase doesn't have to be as hard as it was before you got the education and experience.
Right.
So,
well, and visceral fat is hard.
It's not good.
Gotta make a lot of changes.
Right.
You know, can it be done? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah. The other thing though is that, you know, obviously the scale might increase. I think we kind of touched enough on that. Like the scale might go up, but you might be seeing that your like chicken wings are gone on your arm, right? Or your ass is looking really high and tight. Like what did you say? Your glutes are
derriere.
Oh, your derriere, yeah.
Derriere.
Well, and you know, when we're talking about the scale going up, your measurements also might go up around your hips because your ass is getting bigger. Or, you know, your obliques are getting stronger. So maybe you could see a change in your waist, but your stomach is flat as fuck, or flatter than it was before. You don't have this like gut. You just have these really strong obliques that might make your waist a little bit bigger. Your clothes might be fitting a little bit tighter in your glutes. Because that's what we want, right? Like if you want to, like, guess what? Your pants are going to get tighter if your ass is bigger. Like we've got to think about that. You know, so we got to throw a lot of the shit out when we do this.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And that's like also like throwing this shit out in the sense of timing too. So for example, if we know things are going to be tighter and whatnot, like timing should play a role. What I mean by that is sometimes it's easier to go through a bulk during the holidays because there's going to be more nutrient dense food available or more quantity and things that you don't normally have that we can give ourselves a little bit of leeway. And we'll talk about this in nutrition considerations too, of what is leeway versus what is dirty bulking. Because during summer, if we already know, like I'm going to have to constantly be reframing my body image and how I'm seeing myself and trying to weigh the other measures of progress through this stage, that can be challenging, right? And so we don't want to put ourselves in a more vulnerable situation. Now, if we end up doing this during summer and you're in a swimsuit, fine. Okay. Like we will tackle that. But it's just something to consider that maybe going through this time during the holiday season or maybe when we're starting to wear like warmer clothes for cooler
cold weather,
is a good time Because, if you're in the gym, you're probably more suited up, as opposed to in the summer, you're probably more just maybe sports bra, t-shirt, and shorts. So that's something to consider as well. Is like, it's, I'm not trying to say you should hide what you're doing body wise, but also let's kind of manipulate the situation so it's not so much of a mental burden.
Right. Well, and that goes back also to like the challenge of how much food you have to eat. So many people be like 2,500 calories. No way I couldn't do that. You can do that, but we have to do that from whole food sources, right? So you're eating more whole foods. You're eating more like omega-3s, like healthy fats as they call them, right? And so that definitely is something that can be challenging for a lot of people.
Right.
All right. So I think it's important to talk about the nutritional considerations. We've already touched on the fact that we are slowly going to increase our calories over time. And this is not just from a metabolic perspective to like get the body used to like eating a bit more, because your body will adjust to that. It metabolically adapts, right? And if we're strength training too, which we'll talk about, then, and we're building muscle, then we just require more energy in. And so the other part though is a mental part of increasing slowly. It's like, okay, I can have one more cheese stick in my day. A cheese stick is 100 calories, right? So I'm like, oh, I'll just add a cheese stick or a tablespoon of peanut butter to my apple that I already have. All right, I was able to digest that literally and figuratively. And so, okay, so I did 100. So let's do another 100. So maybe now I have an apple, peanut butter, and a cheese stick, right? And now I'm already at 200 calories.
Right.
And if I can find 50 more calories, maybe I just increase my chicken breast by half an ounce to an ounce, and we're there.
Or peanut butter. I mean, peanut butter is like thinking of slowly increasing calories in an easy way. So it's not necessarily like, oh, great, I can have a cupcake every day. It's more so of like, what can I add to each meal? Maybe in the past you were more limited on butter because, for example, I rather have more of X thing than butter. And so therefore, that's how I manipulated my calories. But now I can have more butter, or there's the option too. So maybe I do have more butter on a meal. It's not, again, like a huge shift, but like you're saying, the extra cheese stick, or maybe another apple, or going from berries to a banana, right? Because a banana has more calories than berries do. Or maybe it's berries plus banana too. Like it's as simple as that. And so I don't want to complicate the nutrition piece, because if you're already hitting a protein minimum and a fat minimum, it's really the carbs. But then the carbs, again, carbohydrate, that's where you're going to see more water retention. So therefore scale might be going up and measurements might be changing. But realizing like sometimes some of the best foods are carbs. So for like white rice, right? Or like if you're going to do a stir fry, you can have more rice now instead of limiting it. Maybe instead of low carb tortillas, we now have regular carb tortillas.
Or we have a potato. Right? So you're usually going to, if you're already hitting a protein goal, which hopefully you are, if you're considering a bulk, then you're going to increase it by carbs or fats.
Yes.
I personally like fats.
Well, yeah. And that's what I was going to say. That could be based on preference, right? Like if it's easier for you to get more fats in because you like that, great. If it's easier for you to get more carbs in because you prefer that, great. That's not really, it doesn't matter, because it's going to be what's sustainable and easy for you.
And really what we're talking about is like the fear of like, oh, I have to eat all of this food. Like we're increasing volume. Maybe if we're choosing the carbs, if we don't like increasing the volume, then we choose the fats, right? Because fats have more bang for their buck in regards to calories. They're 9 calories per gram, whereas carbs is 4 calories per gram.
Right.
And then also we may, if again, I don't recommend going into a bulk if we are dealing with like a timing issue with how much we eat. Meaning if you're not eating breakfast, like going into a bulk, like that's something we're going to fix before we go into the bulk.
Yes.
But, if we need to increase meal timing, meaning now we're having, maybe 6 small meals throughout the day, or if having 3 larger volume meals to hit those targets is hard for you, we may change the timing of the meal itself, which will require a bit more planning. And maybe all it is taking your 3 meals and cutting it into 6.
Right.
So we actually didn't have to do that much change, right? My favorite though is I can eat all this food. No, biatch, you cannot.
Known as a dirty bulk.
Dirty bulk.
You're a
This is
dirty
where
girl
you
for a
see,
dirty bulk.
yes, this is where you see fat gain. You think I
Yes.
have all these calories, and this is what I'm afraid of with the particular client who wants to eat more calories. I'm like, you're going to try to get them from alcohol. You're going to try to get them from processed foods,
Right.
and you're going to be very pissed with the progress or lack thereof that you have. You will still gain some muscle, but like that's not how this works.
Well, and the point of going into one, I shouldn't say the point, but one of the points of going into a bulk, considering, so let's go back to like cheese sticks, apples, peanut butter, extra chicken, is that when I do want to come out of it, the modifications are easy. So let's go into this client, for example, if she's like, great, now I can have those 2 glasses of wine every night. You haven't changed anything because now when you come out of it, you've got to take away those 2 glasses of wine. Right. So now there's a behavior and a higher intention. Whereas say, for example, I have the extra cheese stick and the apple and the peanut butter, just taking away the peanut butter and the second cheese stick is a lot more sustainable than just like cutting out something.
Well, I'm going to elaborate on that is if you are doing it through increasing processed foods are designed to be more addictive.
Right.
So now I'm increasing this type of food that it's going to feel real hard to remove, as you're saying, simply because they're engineered for you to overconsume and eat a lot of them. Right. So we want to stick to whole foods as much as we can. Now, it is nice though, because you do have more room. Like you do have an option to like, eat a bit more on vacation and eat a bit more when you go out to eat. We don't have to choose, the chicken and, fish option. We can maybe have some spaghetti and stuff like that. But it's very important, you guys, that we're not doing this kind of dirty bulk. I could eat whatever I want. If you do that, you will gain body fat. Right. And you will be pissed and be like, they lied to me. And like, did we? Because I'm pretty sure we told you this.
Well, and another reason why timing is important too, like we talked about. So for example, holidays, right? If I'm traveling a lot more and there's going to be more of these like high satiating foods that aren't usually around, or maybe they are more processed or something, it's not a green light to go for it all the way, but it's more of an easier forgiveness. Right. Yeah. Because if like, for example, Thanksgiving, I usually don't have pie, but I'm going to have pie. And and it's okay because that pie is, another extra like 300 or 400 calories. Great. So I can eat how I usually do throughout the day and then have this pie and it's sustainable.
Yeah. The other thing though, too, is that we haven't talked about here is when I have someone bulk, I do give them the option to as long as they're hitting their protein targets, like allowing their fats and their carbs to kind of fluctuate. Yep. Right. Unless there's a reason, like say we are in like the menopause transition, we want to focus more on a Mediterranean diet or any sort of special consideration. If we don't have that and you're like, well, my fats were higher yesterday because I decided to have, a bagel with salmon and avocado on it. Whereas today I chose to have the pumpkin pie. Like it's okay. As long as, again, you want to hit your protein and your calorie targets.
Yes.
Right. Good. The other thing too is just listening to your body. Right. So if we start increasing calories and we get a little backed up, then
we got to do something about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because again, and also is it backed up from certain foods? Like for example, if you're adding in more protein and you're getting more gassy, like maybe just back off the protein, like the 100 and we'll say 60 grams of protein that you're getting, which let me actually make that more realistic. The 130 grams of protein that you're getting, and maybe at 120 or 115, 110, I wasn't having these constipation issues or gas issues. Back that off and then add carbs or fats too. So this is where the beauty of knowing your maintenance, but also knowing which macronutrients. So macronutrients are protein, carbs, and fats. Knowing which ones you prefer and which ones your body responds better to is beneficial. And hopefully that we learn that prior to going into this bulk and how to reallocate how much is going towards each bucket.
Yeah, no, I agree. Awesome. Okay, let's talk about exercise, right? Yeah. So the nice thing about this is that you don't usually have to change your exercise unless unless we're focusing on building a certain muscle, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So we don't have to change drastically. You don't have to make up for this increase. Like, oh, I'm eating more. Should I exercise more? I'm like, well, then you're actually taking yourself out of the bulk.
Right.
But we could change what we're focusing on. So again, if glutes is the focus, you can listen to our Building a Booty episode. We would maybe add more glute work into our training to work on that particular area, glutes, shoulders, whatever it is, 2 to 3 times a week.
Right. Yeah. And that's what, like, the other thing too is we don't need to make up for the caloric. That's a past behavior that hopefully we've worked on. But honestly, like, the only thing that I would maybe consider moving the needle on, other than like if I want like a focus session on an area, is maybe increasing steps, because I'm not using steps as a way to manage the increase of calories. I'm just using steps as a way to kind of give some more activity without doing a huge impact on it.
And I mean, if you are eating more carbs, it's going to help with just like using that
energy.
Yeah.
And help with recovery and digestion and whatnot too.
Yeah.
So, and again, if your steps are on average, we'll say 6,000 steps per day on average, and we don't have the capacity to move that needle, maybe it's summertime in Arizona, then that's okay. It's just an option. That it's a lever that you can pull, but it's not something I'm going to pull right away either.
Absolutely. So other considerations are just to have a plan. So anytime we're in a bulk, we're also talking about, okay, what's after that bulk, right?
Yes.
Have a time frame that we're going to be in it, even though you should live, I would say live at maintenance. I know that there was that podcast that said, no, actually it should be in surplus for the majority of the year.
I know.
That you listen to. But know that there is a time frame, just like there's a time frame in a calorie deficit. Maintenance is where you want to live for the majority of the time, but now your maintenance is higher, right? And that's awesome. Like your metabolism will increase. Now your maintenance isn't going to be what you're eating in the bulk per se, but say that you started at 2,000, now it might be 2,200, 2,250, right? And so having a time frame is definitely helpful.
Yes. And then on that time frame, have realistic expectations. And so we've talked about that or alluded to that each time, but just to put it in blanket statement, have realistic expectations. Know your body comp's going to change. Know your pants might be fitting tighter. Know your measurements might alter. Know the scale might be going up, and it probably will go up. Know that, like, I'm going to feel, or I might look softer in my body. I'm not going to be as defined. Know that I should expect should expect strength increases as well as another way of progress. Know that I'm only doing this for 12 weeks, right? And honestly, when you look at 12 weeks over the span, 12 weeks is only 4 months. So out of 4 months out of the year, it's long when you're in it, but it's not that long when you look back, or when you're looking at the grand scheme of the seasons of changing and kind of going through these different areas of nutrition and pulling your levers. So that's something to consider as well.
I want to say something, even though I don't necessarily promote this industry, is like, you guys have to realize those people who are lean as fuck, like on stage, had to go through a bulk.
Yeah.
If they do it right, especially the pros. Like, they have a building phase in the off season so that they can have those rounder glutes in the competition season. So like your brain is like, well, this is going to make me look at those people. They're the leanest they can be, and their bodies, look that way because they went through this process.
Right.
And again, just like we always talk about, like just being able to plan ahead. And if you've been at maintenance and you've done it correctly and you have this foundation under you, it's just very small changes to those knobs. Like you said, like just adding a few things in, even going from low fat or non-fat dairy to full dairy, full fat dairy.
Or chicken breast to chicken thighs, from trout to salmon, from like maybe cauliflower rice to actual rice. Correct. That's like the small change, maybe from like half an avocado to maybe 3/4 of an avocado, something like that. I know. So, but we do need to track these changes too. So we're talking about, like, we do need to track the scale weight. We do need, excuse me, you don't have to track scale weight, but if we do need to track it consistently. We do need to track body measurements. We do need to track, again, the strength training and like how strong you're getting with your lifts, because the more data you have, the better it's going to be. And also pictures too. Like, the scale could be increasing, but again, you could be seeing like this tighter ass, these stronger legs. The pictures are going to be what's actually giving people their reality, right? Like, because the picture is how you actually look. The scale is just telling you how you should look.
Absolutely.
So we need to have different points, and you could do pictures without the scale if you'd like. Like, for example, that's what I ended up doing. But we do need something to say, okay, this is the progress and this is the change that's happening, as opposed to just going based off of, I don't know, I just feel fluffy today. And it's like, well, but have we actually physically seen anything change? And if we do, was that part of the expectation? Did you prepare for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. As always, we want to kind of back this up with science. In the Stanford Center of Longevity, they said women who alternate periods of bulking with periods of maintenance or fat loss often see more sustainable results. Building muscle creates a foundation that supports fat loss efforts in the future, making it easy to maintain their lean physique, as we already talked about. What you got?
Mine was an older study, and I didn't mean to. I try and make it at least 2020, but I was like, oh, this is like, I just to promote what we're talking about here. So this is from 1999. The nutritional needs of the female athlete is the title. So some of the health consequences of long-term energy restriction, so like we were talking about, of who would need to do this or who do we recommend in female athletes, may include poor energy intake, nutrient intakes, poor nutritional status, decreased resting metabolic rate, and total daily expenditure, increased psychological like challenges and eating disorders too. We see that a lot in the female athletes. And it's one of those things of, okay, if this is resonating with you, like my energy sucks, like my nutrition is like, I think it's okay, but maybe I should be eating more. I'm just like, don't feel like I'm making any progress anymore. Then there's your sign of there's some consequences here going on with what we're doing nutritionally or maybe catabolically, and to consider maybe we swing the other way. And doesn't mean like a hard swing, like we talked about. It doesn't mean going into a dirty bulk and just being like, fuck it. But it means, what are we doing that's not working? And what haven't I done ever before? Because I will say most people listening to this probably haven't done this and haven't really thought about like, how do I actually scientifically increase my metabolism? And this is how.
Awesome. So definitely backed by science. I mean, I'm looking at several different studies. We have, again, hormonal balance and recovery, resistance training, especially when paired with a slight calorie surplus, helps balance hormones like insulin and growth hormone. This leads to better glucose utilization, improved energy levels, and enhanced recovery during workouts. Again, body comp benefits. Women who engage in resistance training while in a calorie surplus tend to gain lean mass, which helps reshape the body and increase strength. Studies show that women tend to retain more lean mass than men during caloric restriction, making bulking an essential phase to building muscle and support fat loss and future cuts, as we said. So lots to back this up. It's fucking science, but the diet industry doesn't want you to know that, because that it doesn't help to,
sell.
What do they say? Make their pockets. What do they say? Line their pockets, as they do. So awesome. Well, all of our coaches here at the Mindset of Matter are all, they've been in a bulk, they can coach a bulk, and they can help you create the lifestyle and body of your dreams, no matter what age you are in. And so again, this is the way we increase metabolism. This is the way how we make your physique and all the things that come with it sustainable. And so if you are interested in doing this, check out the Clarity Call link below. Also, if you'd like more information, we have our Instagram page, Mindset of Matter Coaching, and fitbymana.az, where we just share nuggets of information like this and other things around mindset and sustainable habits. So please check those out. You'll also find this recording on YouTube at the Mindset of Matter. And so again, we highly, highly, highly recommend this. And it is literally, it will change your life. And like I said, you're rewriting history with your relationship with your body, food, movement, and all.
I would say rewriting your ability, your knowledge to know that you can do this and that you had the education to, but also like the confidence in yourself too. Because like confidence doesn't only come from how you look. And so if I can, like, I know
doing hard things.
Yeah. Like, and for example, I know I can squat like 245. Like that's pretty, like to just, I can't right now because my baby would come out of my vagina, but I know like that was a possibility. Now, is it important that that defines me? No, but I mean, when I look at things and I'm like, I can't lift that. And I'm like, okay, first of all, yes, you can.
Yeah.
And so but I wouldn't have been able to do that without going through like a bulking phase. And if I always focus on like fat loss and being skinny.
Yep. Love it. Well, and again, this goes into the slogan you're about to hear, because when you can empower yourself to become stronger, you can work in ways that are different or differ from this skinny mentality. When you do these things, you will change your mindset. And as we always say, we want to leave you with this one last thing.
What you say in the mind,
you see in the mirror.
Woo!
Peace.